Hi everybody. Today I thought I would make a video about our lesson because it concerns diseases. So even though we've been talking about the Industrial Revolution, a very important topic in global studies, I know that you guys always find diseases fascinating, as do I, and also given why we're having online classes, I think this merits a video. Anyway, so here I am. I think you can see my dog Nori in the back. Hi, Nori. Oh, look, she's moving. There she is. Hi, baby. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a disease called cholera. All right? Come on, sweet. She wants to come up. There she is. Say hi to my students, baby. Do you know anything about cholera? I love you. Cholera is a disease that came along. It's a relatively young disease. And it started really with the Industrial Revolution. So let's give some background here. One of the major effects of industrialization is something called urbanization. Okay? Urbanization means the growth of cities. The word urban means city. So what you had when countries like England were industrializing, you had thousands of people every month moving in from farms in the countryside to go get jobs in cities so that they can work in factory jobs. So this happened very, very quickly. So you had thousands of people every month crowding into cities that were not built for this kind of influx of population. So this caused, look at Nori in the background, she's so cute. This explosive growth in population and urbanization put a tremendous strain on infrastructure. Okay, now what infrastructure is, it's the stuff, the building stuff that makes our cities work. Okay, so it's housing, but it's also things like sewage systems. Okay, when people move to cities, they need to drink water and they need to go to the bathroom. Okay, so you can imagine something like a sewage system is put under enormous strain by a rapid increase in population. And this leads us directly to this new disease called cholera. Now, I say cholera is a new disease because it is nowhere in the record before the very late 1700s, around about the year 1800. So it's a very new disease. Some diseases are old, like the plague is very old, smallpox is very old. We have Egyptian mummies with signs of smallpox, if you remember. But some diseases are very new, like cholera. And of course, the coronavirus is new. AIDS is a new disease. So diseases can be old or young. Cholera is relatively new. It seems to have first come out of India, and it seems to have traveled on steamboats to England. All right, so we know that. Now, what is cholera? It's a terrible and just must have been ever such a frightening disease, and it still is actually with us in some parts today, although it's much easier to treat today than it was 200 years ago. Cholera is a bacteria. Okay, so it's not a virus, it's a bacteria, which means that with modern medicine, it's relatively easy to treat. Okay? Now, the bacteria gets into your system in a way I will explain in a minute, but first let me tell you what it does. The cholera bacteria affects your cell's ability to hold water, okay? Now, that's really profound because as you know from your science classes, cells consist mostly of water. Our bodies consist of a huge quantity of water. So if your cells suddenly lose the ability to retain water, that water just leaks out of everywhere it possibly can in your body, okay? So that means the signs of cholera, okay, are instant, horrible vomiting and also uncontrollable explosive diarrhea, okay? I hate to get gross about this, but basically, if you have cholera, you poo yourself to death. Okay, because after so much vomiting and so much diarrhea, very quickly you become dehydrated and you die of cholera in about a day. All right, so this must have been a terrifying disease when it happened. Now, it is a waterborne bacteria. So think about it. All of this water that's being emitted from vomit and diarrhea, where does it go? Where does the poo and the vomit go? Well, it gets into the sewage system, okay? People didn't really have a lot of flush toilets at the time, okay? So a lot of times all of this stuff would be thrown into the street and it would work its way into the water system. So what you had, and we know this today, although it was a big mystery at the time, okay, generally in London and these big industrial cities, people would get their water from central pumps, okay? So there'd be little neighborhoods in London with a pump, and people would bring a bucket of water and use the pump and get their water that they would use for the day. Now, if that pump, okay, or the well or the water supply that that pump draws on is infected with cholera, first of all, you can't see it, all right, so you don't really know. But you come home, you drink the water, and you're certainly dead by the next day, and a very, very horrible death. So that's cholera. Now there's a story. Cholera plagued many industrialized cities in England and in the United States for a very, very long time. Now again, the deal with diseases really changed in the late 1800s once people understood germ theory, and once people came to understand microorganisms. Organisms like bacteria, like cholera bacteria, they can only see with a microscope, okay? So once that was discovered, these diseases became much more well understood and eventually easier to treat. Interestingly, cholera is incredibly easy to treat today, and it's possible to get cholera, but you know how you treat it. You just get a saline IV. You just get an IV to pump water in your system, because remember, cholera means your cells can't hold on to water. So if you just replace that water, it flushes out your system. The cholera, bacteria expels itself, and you're fine. So it's easy to treat today. Anyway, it was an enormous, enormous problem. Killed many, many people in industrial England. And by the way, I've seen questions on cholera come up on the regions. Anyway, I really, really hope you enjoyed this lesson. It's very interesting. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.